Hey, this is Jacob from Mipso, and you're listening to the Midwest Mixtape podcast live from the barn.
Setting my sights on an incoming light, zone out till the morning, turn the AM dial, sit and think a while. Early March with the frost still hard, I nodded off and turned in the sand. The traps work, but stopping hurts. And Carolina rolling by, windows down and the sun's up high. Can you feel it? I can feel it.
Hi, and welcome to the Midwest Mixtape podcast live from the Barn Studio. You got the Mox here with a special guest online right now. We have Mr. Jacob Sharp of Mipso. Jacob, how are you, man?
I am doing great. Happy to be here chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. We are big fans, and we cannot wait for Friday, October 27th, 8 p.m. at the Old Rock House. Great venue. Not sure if you guys have played there before, but it's a great venue with Mipso, and you're out on tour with Humbird. Looking forward to having you in town.
We're pumped. Yeah, we played the Old Rock House a couple years ago, and we were marked what a great kind of like hidden gem of the scene. We love St. Louis, and it's going to be fun to get back to a venue that we have such fond memories of.
And you're out supporting this new album, Book of Fools. Great album, by the way. This is your North American tour. I know you guys obviously stay very busy on the road, so you excited to get back out?
I am. And, we've been a band for 10 years. This is our sixth album, and this is kind of the first time ever that we've had a touring break. So I would say we're even especially excited because we do keep busy, but we've really only played a couple shows in the last 10 months or so, and we're used to kind of being out there all the time. So it feels good to be looking at the calendar and seeing a lot of these cities that we've come to know over the last 10 years back on our radar. It's going to be fun to share the music and revisit with old friends.
And I would say if you're a fan of Mipso, you understand, or you at least know of the history there. Obviously, you guys all went to college together at Chapel Hill, UNC. And how that, initial idea evolve into the band that we see today?
It's, I think, like a lot of good things in the world, a bit of a happy accident that can only happen when you happen to be in the room with people that you really like. We weren't trying to make a band. We just loved music and liked hanging out with each other. And a friend actually asked us to put together a band to play a show at a fundraiser, like your classic on-campus little blurb in the student paper type of thing. And we were not good. We were people who had practiced for a week and gotten 45 minutes of music together. I don't think that we blew anybody's minds, but we had a really good time, and the people that were there had a good time too. And we thought maybe it'd be fun to together try and figure out how to do this right. And so that's kind of the seed that we just have kept watering for over a decade now. That was actually 12 years ago. And I think each layer from there has been kind of about pulling back something and getting a little closer to who we really are. That at first, we, being off from North Carolina, having the musical interest that we did personally and then collectively, I think we kind of thought, oh, with these instruments and this type of ear, this is the type of band we should be. And we were, and then we wanted to be that band really well. And that was maybe more bluegrass oriented. And we still love that music. We still love playing it. We listen to it all the time. But I think everything since then has been about kind of finding like what is the unique center of the Venn diagram of the four of us. And this album feels like a really honest explanation of that.
Yeah, and you mentioned it being your sixth studio album. Do the albums almost feel like chapters in, the world or the book of life of Mipso, or even like, all these tours that you've been on? Does it feel like chapters or like maybe pinpoints throughout your existence in your band?
Absolutely. I mean, we use them as like colloquial reference points. I think normally when we talk about it in the band van, like if we're in between gigs and it's not just the music and our career, it's also our lives of like, oh yeah, on that tour you were dating this other person and now you're married and living in a different state. We use them as kind of the reference points for our lives because that's the nature of being in a band like ours for as long as we have been, is that it's your life as much as it is your job. And I think this music, this go around is really a lot of the stuff that were writing about was collaboratively, and it's kind of the only stuff you can write with someone if you know exactly what they've been through. And you can really only know what someone's been through if you've been there with them when they're going through it. And that's, I guess that's a core part of our relationship together.
We mentioned UNC as well, and was delighted to see the video of you guys singing the national anthem at North Carolina versus Duke. What was that experience like for you guys?
There's a lot of things that I would say 10 years ago when we said, let's just do this for a year and then we'll get jobs. There's a lot of things since then that we didn't see coming. And definitely this is one of them. It was,
right.
It was a pretty surreal experience. We all grew up big basketball fans. Of course, that's kind of in our blood in North Carolina at large, but then especially if you go to UNC.
Sure.
And there's not much that prepares you for singing. The national anthem is a weird song, if we're being honest. It's not the most intuitive from like a writing perspective, the melody, the words. When you're singing it with 20,000 people in the stands, you fall right in line. But when you're the one kind of leading it, it's easy to imagine forgetting it. And that was definitely on the forefront of our brain as we walked out of the kind of player tunnel in front of the masses and launched into it. And there's no monitors. We're spoiled at this point in our career. It always sounds pretty good on stage. It's a fun environment to play in because you can hear everything perfectly and you're really playing off each other. In that environment, the natural reverb of that room was wild. We had no monitor. We were kind of just throwing it out into the wind and hoping it sounded good. And it was a lot of fun. And then especially fun when we heard some playback and thought, actually, that did sound pretty good.
But you're no stranger to the big time, I guess. You guys also performed several years ago at the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. Tell us a little bit about that and what that was like.
I said there's a number of experiences that we didn't see coming that kind of feel surreal, and the national anthem's definitely one of them. One of the few things that would top it would definitely be the Macy's Parade.
Yeah, I bet.
There's nothing else like it. And similarly, it's something. We were reflecting about this the other day. It was not intuitive to us to say yes to it when we got the offer because we were a young band trying to find people who really liked us for our music and not for like the marketing, who they thought we were. We wanted people who were just connecting with us, kind of music lover to musician. And I would say we had a little chip on our shoulder that maybe at that time we were wanting those people to come to us through like Paste Magazine or Pitchfork and not from the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade next to a Muppet dance, choreographed dance.
Right.
And we were a little concerned. And, a number of us are vegetarians and we were on a KFC float and that's not a place that we eat at a lot. So we were kind of worried about it. And it was a couple weeks of us debating whether or not we should do it. And ultimately we did. And I'm happy that we did because it was not only one of the most absurd mornings and weeks of our lives, but also we have since then had so many people that come up to us at a merch table or send us an email saying that that's where they first heard us. And now they own all our records and they've been to a number of shows and brought their friends. And
wow,
at the end of the day, that's all that we care about. It's not where you find us, but that if you find us, it means something. And part of what we're singing, all our songs are, for the most part, they come from the experiences we've had or the realizations that we've gone through in our lives. And they mean something to us. They're emotionally resonant. And if they are resonating for you, I don't really care how it is you first heard about us.
Are you familiar with the group, the duo Johnny Swim, sort of an acoustic?
Yeah.
So I very first heard them at the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade on TV, obviously. And I love them. Like years later, I've still listened to everything and even their newest album. And so
that's cool, man.
I think it's pretty cool of the parade or the broadcaster, whoever makes that decision. They kind of put some bands out there that maybe people haven't heard of before, maybe a little bit lesser known to like a national audience. And I think that's pretty cool.
I agree with you. And, it's funny, the morning of it, we were a young band. I think at the time we were touring in a Honda Odyssey, so in a minivan. It was not the glamour period of our career. And we got flown up first class. So we all had our own hotel room at this fancy hotel in Chelsea. And then morning of the parade, we shared a dressing room in Central Park with Questlove, and it was right next to Pat Benatar's trailer.
Oh,
and
geez, right there. It's worth it right there.
It was cool. And I agree with you. We don't fit in with, if you look at like the metrics, the industry metrics, we don't fit in with those people, but we fit right in hanging out, having coffee and croissants together. And it was funny rolling down the avenue there in front of throngs of people. And there's this like assumption of fame, you know, like if they're on the float, they must be famous.
Right.
You can hear the crowds being like, who is that Mipso? I've never heard of them. So we were in real time, both aware that we were on a pretty big stage and also aware that we were new to it. It was a unique experience for sure.
When you get that phone call and you're at that level in your career, is it like, do you feel like somebody's pranking you, or do you feel like it's a joke, or like?
Absolutely. We were convinced it was a college buddy pulling a prank on us for a minute. And actually we hired our first publicist around the time just to manage the process and make sure that everything not only checked out, but was up to the standard it should be, if that makes sense.
Sure.
And it was in large part because it was not a call, it was an email. And I called the person that afternoon and was like, hey, we just got this email and it seemed legit, but also we were like, are you sure? Are you sure you meant to call us and not Wilco or somebody else? So
right.
Yeah, it was definitely one that I would say, still trying to figure out.
I mentioned that we are digging this new album, Book of Fools. Can we get into it a little bit?
I'd love that.
You guys, obviously you have your roots in bluegrass, but I would say, you know, with this album especially, you're pulling from a lot of various genres. You're making it uniquely Mipso, but, you know, how do you navigate that? And what do you hope your listeners take away from the diverse collection of songs?
That's a great question. I guess part of what I hope for the listener is that you find the changes that we're going through as exciting as we do. Like the changes in who we are as people, and that's what we're writing about, and also as musicians, and how it is that we're finding tones and textures that we think tell a unique story. So that would be our hope. And from a process perspective, we're unique maybe in that we have really 3 lead vocalists and 4 writers. All of us write songs. And so when we start the writing sessions for an album, there's a lot of material to sift through. And also there's a lot of excitement in us in doing something new together in the moment. So this album it was a uniquely long process for us. We took some time off the road. We encouraged ourselves to not be date and timeline oriented, but just to be art oriented. And that's hard to do, I would say, for young bands, because it's so hard to make money unless you're on the road. And it's hard to give yourself the time that you really need to sit with something. And you don't always need it, but in this case we did. And over 6 months, we had 3 different writing sessions where we were weeding down from a starting batch of about 50 songs to the final 15 that we demoed out in full and then cut 12 of them. And there's a part of that of like, what are some thematic in the writing? What is it that feels like there's a common thread? And then also, how is it that we can imagine these songs coming to life? And from a tone perspective, what's similar there? And thus, who should we work with on production? What type of studio is best? And with this one, what became really clear to us was that these songs were going to work really well if they were well rehearsed and live, and that we wanted to do it recorded live to quarter-inch tape for that reason. And so that kind of like forced some selection of certain songs that we really liked, seemed like maybe a different process was needed, or they felt more kind of on our string band side, and we decided let's hold off on those for the next project and see if they make more sense there.
Be careful here a little bit.
Let's do it. What do you want to start with?
Let's start with Radio Hell. I'll play a little bit and then we'll talk about it. Does that sound all right?
Love it.
I don't want to dance with somebody who doesn't want to dance with me. I'm busy shaking all the branches on the medicine tree. I don't want a fish with a hook I picked from a vending machine. We're too far from water, too close to the glow of sunscreen. Too close, forgiven. The radio well forgiven. The radio well forgiven. The radio well forgiven. The radio well.
So Radio Hell is described as an ambivalent nod to the music industry. Share the story behind the song, what that message that you wanted to convey with that. I love how it's such a quirky sound, and there's like a lot of metaphors and stuff in there. So can you tell us a little bit about Radio Hell?
For sure. I mean, we've been talking a little bit about this point of the career that Mipso's at. 10 years and 6 albums. We've worked with a lot of different people and situations. We've seen kind of the belly of the beast, from things turning from more grassroots radio and sale oriented to streaming and social media. And we've considered a lot of different ways that we could be as a band, not just the music we're making, but the type of business you want to be and what type of growth you believe in. And I think we've come to feel lucky that our career is defined by consistent and kind of slow growth, and that we've been able to change along the way, and people in our audience has changed with us. And there's a lot of things that we get told every day that we could do to grow faster, to have more followers, to have a wider reach. But normally those things don't make us think that we're going to find as much fulfillment and joy and emotional resonance with our audience. And so when that's the case, it's pretty easy for us to decide to not do it. And this song, it's kind of written towards that direction. And definitely as it started to come together, we wanted to find musically, not just in the composition of the song, but also in some of the tones that we were using, some ways of signaling that as well. And I think we did a good job of it. Like when I listen back and when we've been trying to figure out how to translate this from record to stage, it's such a fun one to find that aggression and kind of that wink to having an awareness of who you are and who you're not.
Do you think this is a song that you would have written, say, 10 years ago?
I don't think we could have. And I'd say that about most of our songs. I think you have to have grown and changed and experienced I guess it's like the texture of the road, not in the music sense in this way, but the road of life. I think that is how you get the experience and context you need to write one. And I think if we hadn't made some mistakes along the way, this one wouldn't be possible.
Do you think perspective plays a part in that too? I've mentioned in other interviews where a song that maybe I listened to when I was a teenager, I can still enjoy now, but it might have a different meaning to me. No matter what the writer intended it to be, it might change based on my perspective. Do you think that's the case with some of your music and some of your art?
Absolutely. That's my hope. You know, I don't know. Talking about change and perspective, when you relate it to a band and to art, for me, when something's stagnant, I lose interest. It might still be comfortable, like we all like the idea of comfort food. It's comfortable because it hasn't changed, and it gives you that feeling of security. And yet I like to be challenged. My romantic relationship, my friendships, I like it when the people around me are changing, experiencing new things, and are asking me to think about that as well, and to think about how I've changed. And so I like for our music to reflect that.
That's part of growth too, right? Don't you think?
I do. Yeah. I think, I think that is the type of life that I find fulfilling to live, and that I'm inspired by in others, involves that type of reckoning and growth and change. And, it's hard. We have both this album and Edge's Run, have also marked times of us wondering if we could continue. And normally it's not for interpersonal reasons. It's for how hard it is to make art that you believe in a world that prioritizes the type of consumption that we are prioritizing societally right now. And it's easy, to be honest with you, even with the privilege that we have, it's easy to imagine leaving it behind, because it's not always a fun road. And there's a lot of parts of it these days compared to when we started that we don't find either romantic nor appealing. And so to me, it's rewarding in the music and in the strategy behind it too, to prioritize the things that still give you that feeling of this is important right now and this is honest, and someone else is going to connect with it too.
The state of the music industry, does it feel like it's important to push back on some of those things that you're talking about with a song like Radio Hell?
Totally. And I would say also in conversations like this too, and we're definitely aware of that in our social media as well. It would be easy to only show the glittery stuff, the crowded concerts, the angles, of photographs that make you look like you're having the time of your life. And that's only part of the story. It's not always fun to be gone from home for a month and to have to kind of put on a smiling face every night and entertain people. It's not always easy. It's not always how we're feeling. And similarly in the industry, there's a lot of things that we don't agree with. And we might be an easier band to sell if we just talked about how great everything is and how happy we are to be here. But we want to be a band that's realistic for the bands coming behind us, that there are things worth challenging and there's a way to do it and still get to make the art you want to.
In the next song that we're going to hear, Broken Heart, Open Heart, there's some emotional depth there. And kind of what you're talking about is like, maybe it's not all glitz and glamour all the time. It's not all what the fans see. They see that 30 to 45 minutes of you guys on the stage, or not you guys, but just, artists and bands on the stage. Yeah. And they don't see the 16-hour car drives or the missing family or whatever that might be. I know there's a lot of emotion in your music, but is like mental health a part of like Mipso's story as well, and sharing some of those things? Because with a song like Broken Heart, Open Heart, you're talking about grief in a way, or at least losing of a loved one.
Yeah, it definitely is. I mean, I would say a defining part of where I write from on a personal level comes from having a parent that was terminally ill for most of my teenage years and passed away right as the band was starting. Actually, our second show, our first show I mentioned earlier, was a friend asking us to play a fundraiser on campus, and we had so much fun that we were like, let's keep figuring out how to write songs together. And my mom was terminally ill with ovarian cancer, and it was clear she didn't have a lot of time left. And so I kind of set a goal, and these new friends of mine, my bandmates, jumped right on it with me that it would be fun to plan a concert in my hometown so my mom could come see it. And she passed away the week before that concert happened. And we thought about canceling it, but ultimately we kept it and we turned it into a fundraiser for the treatment center she had been at. And I would think that most stuff since then has been, for me, about kind of peeling back the layers on what it means to have seen a community come together. In that moment, my small town, Morganton, seeing people come and grieve and also celebrate. And also on a personal level, me realize, hey, this is a place where I can figure out these emotions that I don't understand. I can figure them out through song. And now I have this outlet both to do that with these people, my bandmates who support me, but also with our fan base to share it with folks who might be going through their own thing. And they're trying to figure those emotions out too, from whatever experience they're having. So it's a big part. And since then, like everybody, the older you get, the more people you have to say goodbye to. It's not always death. Sometimes it's just a relationship that fades away. And that's a lot of what we think about and what we write about.
Can we hear a little Broken Heart, Open Heart?
Yes.
How do you tell someone you're lonely when they're sitting by your side? How do you find the words for feelings when the feelings want to hide? What's the point in all the searching when you won't like what you find? How do you keep on living when someone you love dies? Doesn't get easy, it's gonna stay hard, but a broken heart is an open heart. The world seems full of strangers,
My favorite tune on the record, Broken Heart, Open Heart. I want to say thank you for that song, man. And I want to say thank you guys for sharing parts of your life. I'm sure maybe it's cathartic for you and helpful for your own healing, but I think it heals other people too.
I really appreciate that, Chad. Thank you for saying that. And it's like, Libby, my bandmate, her mom passed away 2 years ago, and we talked a lot. And the run up to that, her mom was also sick with cancer, about from my perspective, what it had meant to be both on the side she was on then and on the other side too. And afterwards, one of the things we talked about is like, we all join that club. We all have to say goodbye to somebody, and it's never fun to welcome someone to it, but you're always kind of glad by the additional company. There's comfort in that. And so I would say the same to you. I'm sorry for what it is that you had in your life that made you know pain, but I'm happy that there's a song we can share kind of as a balm.
Music heals, right?
For me, absolutely. I'm also, Chad, just really appreciative of this conversation and the honesty and what it is that you're noticing about our career and our music. And we've talked about how it's not all easy, but the part that is really easy is that having a connection with one person through a recorded song or through something they hear live on stage, that makes the hard parts worth it. So yeah, I'm right there with you.
I mentioned off air before we came on air that I am a fan, been a fan for many years, but I became a fan. Bad Penny is my favorite. And
nice.
Remember many road trips driving around, live in a small town. I'm sure you know what that's like. Don't have much to do. You drive around just looking for stuff to do, or you make a playlist or whatever. So that was the jam that got me early on, and been following you guys' career ever since. Really looking forward to you guys coming into town. I haven't had the chance to see you, but we will be changing that Friday, October 27th at 8 p.m. at the Old Rock House in St. Louis. Tell us about Humbird. Haven't heard them, haven't seen their name anywhere. Is this a band you're taking out on the road?
This is a band we are taking out on the road because we love their music. They're based in Minneapolis, so a Midwest band that we actually got to know via our dear friend and the producer of this record, Shane Leonard. Shane has worked with Humbird on a couple of records as well. And I remember him texting me the first record they worked on of, hey, you should really check out this music. I think you'd connect with some of these songs. And then I've just been a fan ever since. And we feel really lucky that we're going to get to share some time with them on the road. I think it's a week and a half, almost 2 weeks. And those are going to be nights where I'm in the audience for the opener for sure, and looking forward to taking it in.
Is that some of the things that you get to enjoy? You get to sort of be a fan at times when you take bands out and you have the opportunity to showcase other people's talents. Is that part of the cool thing of being a headlining act?
I don't think there's much cooler than that. I mean, we're a product of a lot of people lending a helping hand and an ear our direction when we were a young band. And it has been one of the greatest joys and most meaningful parts of our career to do that, whether it's publicly on tour with someone actually on stage, or privately. Like a lot of the stuff we're talking about here, talking with the versions of ourselves 10 years ago and telling people on the front end, hey, this thing isn't all easy. And there's going to be some stuff that you're right to question, and that you're right to take time for yourself. If you need to cancel that tour for your mental health or for something your family's going through, just do it. Those shows are going to come and go. But moments that you really need to heal, you got to take them when they're needed. So it's one of the joys is getting to have enough perspective now to both be able to bring people out on the road with us and create shows that we think are really unique and meaningful to us, but also just to be able to offer some support and love to the people that are coming behind us.
That's awesome. We have to go out of here. I could sit here all day, man, but I know you got to get ready for tour and got things to do. But I do want to talk about Carolina Rolling By, and specifically, sort of the dichotomy of like what it sounds like, but what I think the lyrics are referencing, how the sound of it doesn't actually really follow maybe what I think the lyrics might mean. Was that intentional? Because to me, it sounds like almost like I'm talking about like a road trip song. You roll the windows down. It's a nice day. It feels like a fun song, but the lyrics seem pretty heavy.
That you are right on it. Yeah, that's I would say the duality of this song is it is about a heavy subject. It kind of starts where Joseph, during COVID, my bandmate, he plays guitars mainly, and one of my just favorite songwriters, even even if I wasn't his best buddy and in a band with him. He, during COVID, had a boating accident where he fell out of a canoe and hurt his back. And for the first time in his life, he was prescribed painkillers. And he was kind of immobile, bedridden for a week or two. And he was on these intense drugs that I think are, a lot of our communities are doing a reckoning with right now of what it is that we're prescribing to people when they're in need of help. And then maybe what we didn't know that means for the help they're going to need on the backside if they get addicted to it. And Joseph was kind of looking some of that in the eyes of saying, man, I get this now. This is a powerful thing that's kind of beyond our control. And he wanted to write about, and luckily Joseph is not someone who has struggled with addiction. So he, though, saw that and I guess had new perspective and new context for the people that do, and wanted to write a song about a fictional character that was going through some hard stuff, but trying to keep their head on straight. And we thought it would be an interesting task to make it into exactly what you described, kind of like a summer banger, like a road trip song that you want to roll the windows down to and turn up loud. And honestly, it's a song that haven't played that much live, but people, it's the type of song that I love where the chorus before you even hear it. Right. And people are singing along and kind of bouncing, and it is a good time to hear it live. But yeah, when you sit down and think about it a little bit more, I hope that it does challenge you also to think about the things that often are just beneath the surface.
Can I talk about two examples of that I can think of? One is the song Pumped Up Kicks by Foster the People.
Oh man, that's just such a great example. You're right.
Because it's such a poppy song. And I even remember like people tweeting about it at the time, like, oh, this is my next club banger or whatever. But what he's talking about in the lyrics is such a heavy and an important topic to be talking about. And then the other one I always think of, and I love songs like this, by the way, but is Father of Mine by Everclear, a 90s song. Where you could easily, and I've probably even seen it with my own eyes at a concert venue, all these people singing along, and it sounds fun and the song sounds poppy and it really is catchy, but the lyrical content is pretty deep. And I love songs that can do that. And I'm not even sure why, but I just love that element to some of the songs and some of the songwriting.
It reminds me, this song's not necessarily about that, but there's a Casey Musgraves song where the lyric is their word for the way I'm feeling tonight, happy and sad at the same time.
Oh yeah.
And I think that's such a part of life, right? Is that you can be really appreciative for the moment you're in, and you can smile through the tears, and that means that you're aware of both, that there's a lot going on that you love, and there's probably a lot too that you wish were different. And I think it's important to give an outlet for that. And I think it's okay to have both at the same time. And I think as long as you're aware of the other side, it's okay to lean into the one you're feeling in the moment too.
Yeah, I agree. And not everything needs to be black or white either. Just because we have an emotion, we have a feeling, it's okay to own it and sit in it as long as you need to. But that doesn't mean that we can't pull ourselves out of it. And if it's through music, which a lot of times it is for me and probably many of our listeners, a happier sounding song might be great. Some people like to just kind of sadder songs, that sound a little bit more somber just because they can sit there and own it a little bit. So there's no right or wrong when it comes to art, right?
I'm a firm believer with you there. And and especially, we've kind of been dancing around mental health all day. And I think as long as whatever it is for you that gives you the space and support you need to really explore both the comfortable and the uncomfortable parts of your life, that's something worth doing and having people around you to encourage doing. And I'm lucky that for me, music has kind of been my lifeline in the good and bad parts of my life, both making it and also just being a fan and loving to go to shows and put on records. And it's such a balm for me. And I feel really lucky with talking about this album a lot and it being another chapter for the band. I feel really lucky for the one ahead because I don't take it for granted every year that you're able to do that and be heavily involved and to hopefully create some spaces for people when they're in need of it. That just feels like such a joy and privilege.
Here's a little bit of Carolina Rolling By.
setting my sights on an incoming light. Zone out till the morning. Turn the AM dial. Sit and think a while. Early March with the frost still hard. I nodded off and turned in the sand of traps work, but stopping hurts. And Carolina rolling by, windows down and the sun's up high. Can you feel it? I can feel it. I used to kneel at night, think what's right, imagining a man way up in the sky.
Friday, October 27th, 8 p.m. at the Old Rock House in St. Louis, Missouri. Mipso with Humbird. Jacob, I've really enjoyed today's talk. I can't wait for you guys to get into town, and the Midwest Mixtape podcast will be in the building Friday, October 27th at 8 p.m. If you're listening to this, go out and stream, buy the vinyl, whatever it is for you. Book of Fools by Mipso. Jacob, we really appreciate your time today, man.
I appreciate your time too, Chad. Thank you for creating the space to talk about and dive deep into the music. And there's a lot of interviews that we do that are pretty fluffy, and it's good to do one that's getting into the real stuff. So thank you.
Setting my sights on an incoming light. Zone out till the morning. Turn the AM dial. Sit and think a while. Early March with the frost still hard. I nodded off and turned in the sand of traps work, but stopping hurts. And Carolina rolling by, windows down and the sun's up high. Can you feel it? I can feel it. I used to kneel at night.